The night was cold and silent. The land outside was empty, broken and dark. Once, long ago, people lived in towns full of light, but those days were gone. The war had burned the world. Now only a few survivors hid in small shelters waiting for each night to pass. Inside one such shelter sat a man. His name did not matter here. He had lived alone for many years. His only friends were the old weapons and the rusty machines he had collected. He had learned to trust no one. In this ruined world, trust was the fastest way to die. He sat by a small fire, warming his hands when he heard it. Knock. Knock. The sound came from the heavy metal door. The man froze. His heart beat faster. Nobody should be here. No one ever came to his shelter. The land around him was empty for miles. He picked up his blaster and walked slowly to the door. Again the knock came. This time softer, almost desperate. He stood by the door holding his breath. Maybe it was a trick. Maybe raiders had found him. Maybe something worse. The night was full of creatures he could not name. Many looked like humans until it was too late. Then he heard a voice. Weak, trembling, almost breaking. Please, open. Just for one night. I have children. They are hungry. The man's grip tightened on his weapon. A woman's voice. Could it be real? Could it be a trap? He stayed silent. His mind raced. The voice came again, closer, pressing against the door. I beg you. Only for one night. Let us inside. The man pressed his ear to the door. He could hear soft sobs, then small coughs. Children. Yes, there were children. But he knew better than to believe everything he heard. In this world, even children could be used as bait. His throat felt dry. For many years, he had lived with one rule. Never open the door for strangers. That rule had kept him alive when others had died. Yet something in the voice pulled at him. It was not anger, not trickery. It was pain. Slowly, he unlocked the first bolt but kept the blaster in his other hand. He opened the door just a crack. The night wind rushed in, carrying dust and cold air. In the dim light, he saw her. A woman wrapped in torn cloth, her face pale and tired. Beside her stood two small figures, no older than 6 or 7. Their eyes were wide, their faces thin with hunger. The woman lifted her hand weakly. We have nowhere else to go, she whispered. If you turn us away, they will not live till morning. The man looked at the children. Their lips were cracked. Their clothes were rags, their small bodies shaking from the cold. For a moment his mind went back to years ago, back to a time when he had a family. He quickly pushed the memory away. This is not safe, he said in a rough voice. I don't know you. I don't ask for trust, the woman answered. I ask only for food. Just one night. Then we leave. The man's eyes narrowed. Something in her tone was strange. Not just desperate, but secretive. He felt it, though he could not explain why. He almost closed the door. He almost sent them back into the night. But then the smaller child coughed again, a dry, painful sound. The man's hand trembled. His own son had once coughed like that. Long ago, before the war took everything. He opened the door wider. Come in, he said. But only for one night. The woman lowered her head in thanks. The children stepped inside, their small feet leaving marks on the dusty floor. The man closed the door and locked it behind them. The room filled with silence again, except for the crackle of fire and the soft breathing of the strangers. The man watched them closely, his weapon never far from his hand. The woman looked around the shelter with tired eyes. The children stared at the fire as if they had not seen warmth for many days. The man gave them water first. The children drank quickly, their hands shaking. Then he placed a small piece of bread on the table. It was all he had left for the night. He planned to eat it slowly, but now the children tore it apart and swallowed it in seconds. The woman did not eat. She only watched her children, her lips moving in silent prayer. The man sat across from them, his face in shadow. His mind was heavy with questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? And why had she chosen his door in all the endless wasteland? But he said nothing. He only watched. The fire burned lower and the shelter grew darker. Outside, the wind howled against the walls as if warning him. He had opened his door, broken his rule. Now 3 strangers sat in his home. The man felt a cold unease settle over him. Something told him this night would not be like the others. And then, just before sleep could touch him, he saw it. The faintest glow in the eyes of the children as they lay down by the fire. It was not the glow of firelight. It was something else. Something unnatural. The man's heart skipped a beat. What had he let inside his shelter? The fire burned low, throwing long shadows across the shelter walls. The man did not sleep. He sat on his old chair, his weapon resting on his knees, his eyes fixed on the three strangers. The woman lay curled against the wall, her children close to her. They looked fragile, too fragile to survive another night outside, but even as he watched them, unease twisted inside him. It was the glow. He had seen it just for a second in the children's eyes. Too faint for them to notice, but too strange for him to forget. He told himself it was a trick of the firelight, nothing more. But his mind whispered another thought. You opened the door. You let something in. The younger child stirred, rolling in sleep. A soft hum escaped from him, almost like the purr of a machine. The man's hand tightened around the blaster. His throat felt dry. Hours passed. At last, morning light crept through the cracks in the metal walls. The world outside the shelter was gray and lifeless, but it still felt safer than the silence in the room. The woman opened her eyes first. She sat up slowly as if every bone in her body ached. Her children woke soon after, rubbing their faces and reaching for her hand. The man stood, his voice hard. Who are you? The woman looked at him, her dark hair falling over her face. A mother, she answered simply. That is all you need to know. That is not enough, the man said. Where are you from? Why are you out there with children? Nobody walks the wastes without reason. The woman lowered her eyes. We are from nowhere. We are running from everything. It was not an answer, and he knew it. He poured water into a cracked metal cup and placed it on the table. The children rushed to it, drinking greedily. As they drank, the man studied them closely. Their skin was pale, too pale. Their movements were quick, too quick for children so weak. He noticed scars on their wrists, thin lines that looked like burns. Your children, he said slowly. They are not like others. The woman's head snapped up, her eyes sharpened, cold and fierce. They are children, she said firmly. That is all. The man said nothing, but the air between them grew heavy. The children finished the water and sat close to the fire. They did not speak, but their wide eyes followed every move he made. The man felt as if he was the one being studied. After a long silence, the woman whispered, Thank you for letting us in. Many would have turned us away. The man frowned. Many would have good reason. Her lips trembled, but she did not reply. Instead, she reached into the cloth wrapped around her body and pulled out a small piece of metal. It was shaped like a coin covered in strange symbols. She placed it on the floor between them. Do you know what this is? She asked. The man crouched down, staring at it. He had seen such marks before, during the war. Symbols of the enemy. The ones who had come from the stars and burned the earth. His stomach clenched. Why do you carry this? His voice was sharp now, filled with anger. Because it is the reason we are hunted. The woman said softly. Because it is the reason we cannot rest. The man picked up the coin, his hand shaking. You should not be here, he muttered. If others find you, they will kill us all. The children pressed closer to their mother, sensing his fear. She looked at him with tired eyes. You think I don't know that? She said. You think I want to bring danger to your door? But where else could I go? Out there the world is empty. Only men like you remain, men who lock their doors and wait for death. I knocked because I had no choice, her voice cracked. If they die, I die too. That is all I live for now. The man looked at the children again. He remembered their glowing eyes, the strange hum in the night. Something about them was wrong, unnatural. And yet, when he saw their small hands clutching their mother's torn clothes, he also saw something else. Fear, helplessness. He turned away, pacing the floor. His thoughts clashed inside him. They could be dangerous. They could bring death to my door. But they are still children. Finally, he spoke. You can stay. One more night. No more. Relief washed over the woman's face. She bowed her head. Thank you, but the man did not feel relief. He felt the weight of a choice he might regret. As the day dragged on, the woman sat silently with her children, whispering soft words he did not understand. Strange words, not prayers he had heard before. The man watched, his unease growing. He cleaned his blaster, checked the traps outside, and kept his ears open for sounds beyond the walls. When night returned, the fire burned once more. The children curled up together, their eyes half shut. The man stayed awake again, his weapon close. He saw the glow again. Stronger this time. Their eyes opened for only a second, shining like dim stars, and then one of them whispered, not to the mother but to the other child. "He is strong." The voice was thin but clear. "He can help us." The man froze. His blood turned cold. They had not been asleep. They had been watching him. The man could not rest. He sat with his back against the cold wall, staring into the weak fire as it flickered. Across from him, the woman and her children huddled together. They looked harmless, yet every moment with them only sharpened his unease. The children's whispers echoed in his head. "He is strong. He can help us." They had spoken when they thought he was not listening. Why would children speak that way? Why would they speak of him, a stranger, with such certainty? His stomach growled. He had not eaten since the day before. Food was scarce, and he had planned his supplies carefully. But now, with 3 mouths added, his rations were vanishing too fast. In the morning, he broke a dried root into pieces. The woman tried to refuse, pushing her share back toward him, but the children snatched it up before she could stop them. They chewed quickly, their eyes shining with hunger. The man watched closely. They did not eat like normal children. Their teeth seemed too sharp, their jaws too strong for such small bodies. They devoured the food with unnatural speed, leaving nothing behind. When they were done, silence returned. The children sat close together, their small frames tense as if waiting for more. Their eyes followed his hands wherever he moved, like animals studying a hunter. The man tried to ignore them. He walked to the corner where he kept his supplies and counted again. Not much was left. Maybe enough for him to survive 2 weeks. Less now. The woman's voice broke the silence. "You are kind. You give even when you have little." The man turned sharply. "Kind? No, just a fool." "I should never have opened the door." Her eyes softened, but she did not answer. Hours passed. The children grew restless. They touched the walls, the fire, even his tools with curious hands. At times the man thought he heard them hum again, that same low sound he had heard in the night. It made the air vibrate, though faintly. He snapped at them once. "Sit still." They froze instantly, their eyes wide and unblinking. The woman pulled them close, whispering in a language he did not know. The man sat back down, running a hand across his face. His nerves were stretched thin. He had survived for years by staying invisible, by hiding from others. Now strangers sat in his shelter, eating his food, whispering strange words. When darkness came again, fear crept deeper into his chest. The wasteland outside was dangerous, but sometimes the danger inside was worse. The children did not sleep quickly that night. They lay near the fire, staring at the flames. Their mother sang softly, her voice cracked but steady. The words were strange, but the sound was calming. The man almost closed his eyes, almost. Then one child spoke. Not to her, not to the other, but into the air. "They are coming." The man stiffened. His hand moved to his weapon. "Who is coming?" he demanded. The child blinked at him as if surprised he had heard. Then the glow returned, faint but real, in both their eyes. The woman pulled them close, her voice urgent. "Enough, be silent!" But the man had already heard. He rose to his feet, his heart pounding. "What do they mean? Who is coming?" The woman's face was pale, her lips pressed tight. She did not answer. The silence stretched, broken only by the fire. Finally she said, "You should not have helped us." The word struck him like a blow. He gripped his weapon tighter. "What are you?" he asked, his voice low, her eyes filled with tears. "We are only what they made us." Fear tightened around him like a rope. He remembered the coin she had shown him, the strange symbols of the enemy. He remembered the glowing eyes, the hum. He stepped closer, pointing his blaster toward the floor. "If you bring danger here, you will leave now. Do you hear me? Now." The children began to cry softly, pressing into their mother. She did not move. "You think they will spare you if they find us outside?" she said, her voice breaking. "No, if they come, they will burn this shelter and everyone in it. Do you not understand? You are already part of this." The man's throat went dry. Outside, the wind howled against the walls, stronger than before. It felt like the night itself was listening. He lowered the weapon, but his fear only grew. The woman stroked her children's hair, her eyes full of sorrow. "I asked only for one night. I should not have asked for more." The firelight flickered, casting strange shapes on the walls. The man felt trapped, caught between hunger, fear, and a truth he did not yet understand. He sat back down slowly, his weapon in his lap. His eyes never left them. The children whispered again as sleep pulled at them. The words were soft, but the man heard. "Tomorrow." They will find us tomorrow. The man's hands trembled. He had survived years alone, but now, with 3 strangers in his home, tomorrow might be his last day. The night pressed heavy against the shelter. The wind outside howled like a wounded beast, rattling the metal walls, but inside the fire burned low and weak. The man sat close to it, his blaster resting across his knees, his eyes sharp and tired. Across from him, the woman sat with her children tucked against her sides. Their small bodies trembled, but not from the cold. It was something else. The man could see it in the way their eyes darted toward the door, in the way they clutched their mother's torn clothes. No one spoke. The silence was thick, broken only by the crackle of the fire. But after some time, the woman's lips began to move. At first, the man thought she was whispering to her children, comforting them. Then he listened closer. The words were not human. They were soft, flowing, full of sounds he did not know. They rose and fell like music, yet there was weight in them, as if each word carried power. The man's chest tightened. He gripped his blaster tighter. "What are you saying?" he asked sharply. The woman stopped, her eyes snapping toward him. "Nothing. Only prayer. That is no prayer I've ever heard." She lowered her gaze. "You would not understand." The man wanted to demand more, but he stayed silent. His instincts screamed that pushing too hard might shatter whatever thin balance kept them from turning on each other. The children stirred, half asleep. Their eyes opened briefly, glowing faintly in the dim firelight. The man's skin crawled. He had seen it before, but this time it was stronger, undeniable. Then one child spoke in a whisper that slid through the air like smoke. "He does not trust us," the other child answered just as soft. "He should not." The man's breath caught. They were speaking not to their mother, but to each other. And their voices, so calm, so sure, did not sound like children at all. "Enough!" The woman hissed, pulling them close. Her eyes were wet with fear. "Sleep. Now." The children closed their mouths, but their glowing eyes stayed open for a long moment before slowly dimming. The man's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to shout, to force the woman to tell him the truth, but the weight in the room kept him still. Fear and curiosity tangled together, freezing him in place. Hours passed. The fire shrank lower. The woman finally drifted into uneasy sleep, her children curled against her. The man stayed awake, his mind spinning. He thought of the war, of the things he had seen long ago, when the sky burned and the ground split open. He had seen soldiers turned into shadows by strange weapons. He had seen creatures wearing human faces. He had seen symbols carved into the skin of prisoners, symbols like the ones on the coin she carried. Now, here in his shelter, he wondered if he had invited that nightmare back inside. Suddenly, the hum returned. Faint at first, then stronger. It came from the children. Their small bodies glowed slightly, a shimmer beneath their skin like fire hidden under glass. The man rose to his feet, weapon in hand. The hum grew louder, and he realized it was not only sound, it was vibration, filling the room, making the walls tremble. The woman woke with a cry. She grabbed her children, holding them tight. "Stop! Stop it now!" The glow faded. The hum ended. The children looked at her with wide, guilty eyes. The man's voice shook with anger. "What are they?" The woman's shoulders slumped. Tears slid down her face. "They are mine," she whispered. "That is all that matters. That is not an answer." Her eyes locked with his. "Would you kill them if you knew the truth?" The man said nothing. His weapon stayed raised, but his finger did not move to fire. The woman's voice broke. "They are hunted because of what was done to me. During the war, I was taken, changed. These children were born of that change. They are not fully human, but they are not monsters either." The man's stomach turned. Half human, half something else. He had heard rumors of such things, whispers in the dark, but he had never believed them. The woman's voice dropped lower. "We run every night because they can feel us. The ones who made them, the ones who still search. They know when we stop. They know when we are close." The man's hands trembled. He had lived all these years avoiding danger, staying hidden, invisible. Now by opening his door, he had placed himself in the path of the very things he feared most. "They will come here," he said, his voice hoarse. The woman nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "Yes, they will." The children pressed against her, silent now, their glowing eyes fixed on him. The fire finally burned to ash, leaving the shelter in darkness. Only the sound of the wind outside filled the silence. The man sat back down, his weapon never leaving his hand. He felt the truth closing in on him like the walls themselves. Tomorrow his world would change forever, and he did not know if he would live to see another night. The gray morning light leaked through the cracks in the shelter walls. The man had not slept. He sat with his blaster across his knees, staring at the woman and her children. His body was stiff from hours of stillness, but his mind refused to rest. The woman looked older in daylight. Shadows marked her face, her skin pale, her eyes heavy with sorrow. The children pressed against her, silent, their eyes following him like watchful animals. At last, the man spoke. His voice was rough. "Tell me everything. No more hiding." The woman's lips trembled. She pulled her children closer. For a long time, she did not answer. Then she gave a small nod. "You deserve to know. You let us in even when you feared us. So listen and judge me after." The man's grip on his blaster tightened. He said nothing. The woman took a slow breath. "Years ago, during the war, I was captured. They did not kill me. They changed me. They wanted to see if a human body could carry their blood, their seed. I was their experiment." The man's stomach clenched. He had heard stories of such things whispered around campfires. Soldiers taken returned broken, no longer the same. He never wanted to believe them. Her voice cracked. "I escaped before they finished their work, but not before I carried their mark inside me. These children, they are the result." The man's eyes flicked to the children. They sat quietly, too quietly, watching him with glowing eyes. "They are half human," the woman continued, "half of something else. Because of that, they are hunted. The aliens call them property. The humans call them abominations. We have no home. Only the road, the night, and the fear of being found." The man's hands shook. He wanted to shout, to tell her she had brought death to his door. But the words froze on his tongue. Her voice was too heavy with truth. He forced himself to speak. "What do they want with them?" The woman's eyes darkened. "They want to finish what they started. To use them as tools, weapons. They are proof that two species can be joined. If the aliens take them, they will make more. If humans find them, they will burn them alive out of fear." The man swallowed hard. The air in the shelter felt thin. "And what about me? What happens now that you are here?" Her shoulders sagged. "You will die if you keep us. Or you will live if you throw us back to the dark. That is the truth." The man rose to his feet, pacing the floor. His instincts screamed at him to drive them out, to lock the door behind them and vanish into silence again. It was the only way he had survived this long. But his eyes kept drifting to the children. They were strange, yes, unnatural. Yet when they held their mother's hands, when they curled together like frightened animals, they looked like children, helpless, alone. Memories pressed against him, memories he had buried deep. A small boy with bright eyes, a cough that grew worse every night, a grave dug in the hard earth. He had not spoken his son's name in years. The woman's voice pulled him back. "I do not ask for forever, only for safety until night passes. Tomorrow we will leave. You will never see us again." The man turned sharply. "Tomorrow? Your children said they would find you tomorrow." The woman flinched. "Yes, that is why I prayed. That is why I begged at your door. We cannot run anymore. We are too tired. But maybe if you are with us, we can survive the coming day." Her words struck him hard. She wanted him to stand against the very hunters he had spent years avoiding. He felt anger rise in his chest. "Do you know how many I have seen die because they tried to fight? Whole towns burned, families torn apart, and you want me to put myself in front of that?" The woman did not answer at once. She only looked at him, her eyes wet but steady. "You are alone. You hide, but for what? Each day you wake, eat, and wait for death. At least with us you can fight for something." The words cut deep, too deep. He opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. The children broke the silence. Their voices rose together, soft but sure. "He will help. We saw it." The man's blood ran cold. "Saw it? What do you mean, saw it?" The woman's voice trembled. "They are not only flesh. They carry visions. They see pieces of what is coming. That is their gift, and their curse." The children's glowing eyes locked on him. "You will fight with us. You must." The man stumbled back, his chest tight. He wanted to deny it, to call them liars. But the fire in their eyes told him they believed it. And worse, a small part of him, buried deep under years of fear, wanted to believe it too. The shelter grew silent again. The man sat down slowly, his weapon heavy in his lap. His choice pressed down on him like the weight of the world. He had lived years by staying hidden. But now hiding might no longer be an option. Outside, the wind howled louder, as if carrying the sound of machines in the distance. Tomorrow was coming. And with it, the hunters. The day dragged on, heavy and slow. The man had never felt time move this way before. Every tick of his old clock sounded louder than the last. Each breath he took seemed to echo in the stillness. The woman sat against the wall, her children curled at her sides. Their eyes closed, but he knew they were not truly asleep. They were listening, waiting. The way their small fingers twitched gave them away. The man cleaned his weapon again, though it did not need cleaning. His hands moved out of habit, but his mind was somewhere else, caught between fear and the sharp edge of choice. Outside, the wind carried new sounds. Not just the low whistle of dust and broken earth, but something heavier, a faint hum, deep and steady like engines far away. He froze, his ears strained. Yes, it was there. The sound of machines, the sound of hunters. The children stirred. Their glowing eyes opened. One whispered, "They are close." The man's blood ran cold. He gripped his blaster tight. The woman looked at him. Her face was pale but calm. "It is time." "Time for what?" His voice cracked, harsher than he intended. "For you to decide." Her words sank into him like stones. For years his life had been simple. Hide, survive, trust no one. That rule had kept him alive when everyone else had fallen. And now, because of one knock, because of one choice to open the door, everything was broken. He stared at her. "If I throw you out now, maybe they will pass me by. Maybe they won't look inside." The woman did not argue. She only held her children closer. "Maybe. Or maybe they will burn this place anyway. They leave no witnesses." The man's throat felt dry. He thought of his small fire, his few supplies, his walls that had kept him alive for so long. If the hunters found him, none of it would matter. The children spoke together, their voices soft but steady. "If you fight, you live. If you hide, you die." He shook his head violently. "Stop saying that." But deep down he knew they believed it. And worse, he could feel truth in their words. The humming outside grew louder. Shadows passed across the cracks in the wall, dark shapes moving against the light. The ground trembled faintly under their steps. The man's heart hammered in his chest. He looked at the door, then at the woman, then at the children. He could throw them out. Open the door, shove them into the dust, and lock it behind them. Maybe the hunters would take them and leave him alive. Maybe he could return to silence, to solitude. But he saw the way the children clung to their mother's arms. He saw the way she held them, trembling but unbroken. And he remembered the grave he had dug long ago. The boy he had lost. The cough that never left his ears. The past wrapped around his throat. He could not breathe. The humming grew closer. Now it was not far, not distant. It pressed against the walls, steady and merciless. The woman's voice broke the silence. "If you want us gone, say it now. We will leave." The man opened his mouth, but no words came. His hands shook. His weapon felt heavier than ever. Outside, the sound changed. It was no longer just humming. It was knocking, a hard, sharp knock against the shelter door. Boom, boom, boom. The man's body went rigid. The children buried their faces in their mother's torn clothes. The woman looked at him, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. "They are here." The knocking grew louder, faster. Metal rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Open," a voice boomed from outside. Deep. Mechanical. Inhuman. "Deliver what is ours." The man's breath came fast and shallow. Sweat rolled down his face. His finger twitched on the blaster. Again, the voice thundered. "Open or burn." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. "Decide." The man's world shrank to that moment. The door before him. The woman behind him. The children watching with glowing eyes. The hunters outside, ready to tear it all apart. He could save himself, or he could stand with them. His chest heaved. His mind screamed. But deep in his heart something stirred, a voice long buried, his son's voice. "Help them, Father!" The man raised his weapon. His voice came out steady, harder than steel. They knock on the wrong door. The woman's lips parted, a faint gasp escaping. The children's eyes glowed brighter, not with fear, but with something else, hope. The knocking shook the door again, louder, harder. The man moved to the center of the room, planting his feet firm against the floor. For years he had hidden. For years he had waited to die. But tonight, he would fight. The choice was made. Outside, the hunters prepared to break in. Inside, the man and the half-human children waited in silence, firelight flickering on their faces. The storm had come to his door, and he was ready to meet it. The door shook under another heavy strike. Dust rained from the ceiling and the walls groaned. The man gripped his blaster tight, his heartbeat steady now, no longer uncertain. He had made his choice. The woman pulled her children close, whispering to them in the strange language he could not understand. Their glowing eyes watched the door, wide but unafraid, as if they had seen this moment before. Boom, boom, boom. The voice outside roared again. Last chance. Deliver them or burn, the man shouted back, his voice rough but strong. Come in then, if you dare. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Then the door exploded inward with a blinding flash. Metal shrieked and tore, smoke and dust filling the air. Dark shapes stepped through, tall, armored, with skin that shimmered like glass and eyes that burned red. Alien drones, half machine, half flesh. They moved without sound except for the low hum of their cores. The man fired first. His blaster spat fire, cutting through the smoke. One drone dropped, sparks bursting from its chest. The others spread out, their long arms reaching, their red eyes fixed on the woman and her children. The man shouted, "Stay behind me!" He fired again, knocking another back. But more pushed through the door, their glowing frames filling the shelter. Then the children moved. They stood side by side, their small hands glowing with the same strange light in their eyes. The hum that once frightened the man now rolled out of them, louder, stronger, shaking the walls. The drones faltered, their steps uneven. The children raised their hands and the air bent, warping like heat over fire. A wave of invisible force slammed into the attackers, throwing two against the wall so hard their metal frames cracked. The man's eyes widened, but he did not stop. He fired shot after shot, moving with the speed of survival, covering where the children's power could not reach. The shelter became a storm of fire, light and sound. The woman cried out warnings, pointing where the drones came fastest. She grabbed a fallen weapon from one of them and swung it, striking down a machine that got too close. But the drones were many. For every one that fell, two more seemed to push through the broken door. The man's arms ached, his weapon hot in his hands, but he did not stop. He would not stop. One drone leapt at him, its clawed hand reaching for his throat. The man ducked, firing point blank into its chest. It collapsed, smoking. Another grabbed his arm, twisting, but before it could crush him, one of the children screamed. A burst of light exploded from the child's body, ripping the machine apart in a shower of sparks. The man staggered back, stunned. The glow around the children grew brighter, their voices rising together in the strange tongue of their mother. Their small bodies seemed too fragile to hold such power, yet they stood firm, their faces fierce. The drones began to retreat, dragging their broken bodies toward the door. But the children did not let them go. Their glow surged, and with a final cry, a wave of force burst outward, throwing the last of the invaders into the dust outside. Silence fell. Smoke filled the room, the fire long dead. The air smelled of metal and ash. The man dropped to one knee, his chest heaving. His ears rang, his vision blurred. Slowly he looked around. The shelter was broken, its walls cracked, its door gone. But they were alive. The woman knelt beside her children, holding them close. Their glow faded, their eyes dimming back to a tired human brown. They leaned into her arms, exhausted but alive. The man stared at them. Not monsters, not abominations. Children. Children who had fought to live, who had saved him as much as he had saved them. The woman's eyes met his. Tears ran down her face, but there was a small, trembling smile there too. "We are still here," she whispered. The man nodded slowly. His voice was rough when he spoke. "And so am I." For a long time, none of them moved. The world outside was silent again, but they knew it would not last. The hunters would return. They always did. The woman began to rise, her voice soft. "We will leave at dawn. We cannot stay. You should remain hidden. You will survive without us." The man looked at the broken walls of his shelter, at the twisted metal of the door. He thought of the years he had spent alone, waiting for death. Then he thought of the fight just now, the fire in his blood, the strength he had almost forgotten he still carried. No, he said firmly. The woman froze, surprised. No? The man rose to his feet, standing tall despite the ache in his body. I have hidden long enough. If they come for you, they come for me too. So I stay, and you stay. Together maybe we build something more than fear. The children looked at him, their tired faces breaking into the faintest smiles. Their small voices whispered in unison. We knew you would say that. The man almost laughed, a sound rough and strange in his throat. For the first time in years it felt real. The fire was gone, the shelter broken, but inside something new had taken root. Not just survival. Hope. Outside the sun began to rise, its pale light spilling over the wasteland. For years the man had dreaded each new day. But now, as he stood with the woman and her children, he felt ready to face it. The future was uncertain. The hunters would return, but he was no longer alone. And for the first time in a long, long while, that was enough.